10 χρόνια μετά τον δωρικό ρυθμό, την πρώτη του έκθεση στην Αθήνα, ο Sean Scully επιστρέφει στο Μουσείο Μπενάκη. Η έκθεση «Επιβάτης», Passenger, έρχεται από τη Βουδαπέστη, όπου πρώτο παρουσιάστηκε, και κάνει μία στάση εδώ, πριν συνεχίσει την πορεία της σε άλλες ευρωπαϊκές πόλεις. Είναι μεγάλη η χαρά μας να υποδεχόμαστε το σημαντικό καλλιτέχνη αυτό στην Πειραιώς 138.
Η έκθεση του Sean Scully στο Μουσείο Μπενάκη έχει στηθεί σε μια διαφορετική λογική από την έκθεση της Βουδαπέστης. Καταρχάς, λόγω χώρου, εκτείνεται σε δύο διαφορετικούς ορόφους, στον πρώτο και στο δεύτερο όροφο του Μουσείου Μπενάκη της οδού Πειραιώς. Στον πρώτο όροφο έχουμε επιλέξει να δείξουμε τα παραστατικά, κατά κάποιο τρόπο, έργα του Sean Scully, από τα πρώτα της δεκαετίας του 60 μέχρι τα τελευταία της δεκαετίας του 2010, το 2015 και μετά. Έτσι επιχειρείται μια συνάντηση των πρώτων έργων του Scully με τα τελευταία του και ο θεατής μπορεί να δει τις δύο διαφορετικές οπτικές στην παραστατική ζωγραφική του καλλιτέχνη αυτού.
I started out my life as a figurative painter. I used to do portraits, and of course I went to school in Britain, in London and the north of England, and I was very proficient at portraiture, at realism. So my work gradually evolved into color-based work, expressionism, which has often been called German expressionism or fauvism. So it was easy for me, really, to make these paintings on a large scale because it was something that I was doing anyway.
The title of the exhibition is very interesting and very central. It's a metaphoric title quoted by Sean Scully. It is related to a group of works that Sean Scully calls the passenger or passengers. In these works, we see a reduced landscape, a kind of landline, horizontal stripes, and another painting, a smaller painting, is inset within the larger painting. And this painting is like a moving body within a landscape, a lonely body, an isolated body. And the idea of passenger is the metaphor of the human in the landscape, the isolated human in the landscape, the metaphor of movement, the metaphor of changes. And it has a biographical aspect because Sean Scully himself is a passenger. He was born in Dublin, in Ireland. He grew up in London. He became world famous in New York and then returned from time to time to Europe.
So everything is very much painted in place. The colors are found on the paintings. You know, red over orange or green over black, black over yellow or green. And these make colors that can only really be made in painting. You can't make these colors any other way. You can't mix the color and then put it on. It has to be made that way. In other words, it has to be made very physically. It has to be the result of layers of paint, one stacked on top of the other, that yield these surfaces and these degrees of transparency and the edges. And of course, the history of the painting is running through it, giving it a sense of rhythm, which brings me to a very interesting point, I think, which is central to my work, and that is the issue of rhythm or musicality in my paintings.
Η δεύτερη λογική στην οποία στηρίχθηκε η έκθεση από τον σχεδιαστή της, τον κύριο Παύλο Θανόπουλο, ήταν να εντάξει στο χώρο της έκθεσης και στους δύο ορόφους τα σχέδια τα οποία οδήγησαν στα έργα. Έτσι και πάλι ο θεατής μπορεί να δει την πορεία μέσα από την οποία προέκυψαν τα μεγάλα έργα του Sean Scully.
Black Square is among the most important pictures in the whole exhibition. The basis of this work is a structure which is called by Sean Scully, the landline. The horizontal stripes painted in a very sensual way, presenting an imaginary landscape, a reduced landscape, a romantic landscape. It is quite usual in the art of Sean Scully that he presents an inset within the landline or within a larger structure. But in that case, what made this series unique, he substituted, he changed the inset to a black square, an emptied out, a blacked out inset, a blacked out structure.
You know, there's only one sculpture in the show, but I may as well talk about it because I think sculpture is a natural extension of my paintings. But when it was time for me to make sculptures, which I started to make about 10 years, 15 years ago, I got interested in it. It was very easy for me to do it in a certain sense because all I had to do was three-dimensionalize one of my paintings. It was very straightforward. I didn't struggle with it at all. And I didn't think about solving problems of sculpture, which I'm not interested in doing in the least. I wanted simply to make three-dimensional versions of my paintings, which is actually what they are. So the one that's in the show, which is a stack, colored stack, is frames finished to a automobile finish, stacked one on top of the other, and they're not all the same size, of course. So this gives it a kind of staggered edge, which is, I have to say, influenced by one of my all-time favorite artists, Giacometti, whose sculptures seem to be eaten from the outside by the sorrows and the difficulties of life.
Το έργο του Sean Scully μπορεί να ανήκει στην ευρύτερη παράδοση της αφηρημένης ζωγραφικής και ειδικότερα του αμερικάνικου αφηρημένου εξπρεσιονισμού. Άλλωστε, πολλές φορές οι επαφές και οι προσεγγίσεις είναι κοινές. Σε κάθε περίπτωση όμως, αυτό που αναβλύζει σε όλους τους πίνακες του Scully και τον διαφοροποιεί από την παράδοση της ψυχρής, θα λέγαμε, αφαίρεσης, είναι ο συναισθηματισμός που προκύπτει μέσα από τα έργα του και είναι προφανώς εύληπτος και εύκολος να τον αντιμετωπίσει όποιος θεατής σταθεί μπροστά τους.